A huge box filled with children's medical records found on the side of Beach Boulevard and brought to the News 4 Jax I-team.
I mean, it's insane.
At the scene, our cameras find even more papers filled with protected personal information blowing in the wind. Social security numbers, addresses, and dates of births for area children. The I-team investigates accident or negligence.
What's more, the News 4 Jax I-team uncovered these records belong to young patients of Dr. Howard Schneider, the former pediatric dentist charged with Medicare fraud and accused of abusing children at his Southside dentist office. I-team investigator Lindsay Gardner went to work to get answers to all this.
Lindsay, how in the world could this happen?
Good question there, Tom. Take a look at this, guys. We have counted 102 files just in this box. You can see where the box was busted here when it was brought to us. Even more papers from the side of the road there, potentially more files, all there blowing on the side of Beach Boulevard and thrown into this bag. A Good Samaritan found all of this and brought it to the News 4 Jax I-team because he didn't know what else to do. We wanted to know who was at fault and what to do now. This isn't where any parent would want their child's personal identifying information to end up. The News 4 Jax I-team found countless papers strewn all along Beach Boulevard after a Good Samaritan alerted us to this scene. The same man who didn't want to be identified brought our team of investigators this huge box of medical files he had found at the same spot on Saturday. Jim Piggott and I got to work to find out exactly what information was inside these files and quickly learned these belonged to children. At least 102 children to be exact, maybe more.
The example on this, I mean, this is the
statement.
patient's name, added their billing statement.
Look how many teeth.
Were extracted.
Yeah.
This is one with insurance information.
We got to work to notify some parents like Michael Spear.
Yeah, I'm absolutely outraged. I mean, you were able to get a hold of me in 2 minutes of looking at a record.
Spears' child's file was light. His son only went twice because he says he didn't like Dr. Schneider. Inside other files, we made a disturbing find. Specific informed consent. When your child is sedated and or extremely upset and fearful in the office. Consent letters to allow the doctor to strap young children to papoose boards, labeled by Dr. Howard Schneider as a compassionate technique to perform safe, comfortable, and quality dental treatment. These are the same boards that children later recalled in their office horror stories to investigators after Dr. Schneider was arrested and charged with Medicaid fraud. Inside another child's medical file, a note from Schneider's staff. This mom is very ridiculous. A letter that goes on to say the mother wanted her child's medical records released back to her. The date, April 22nd, 2015. The same month, parents later began protesting outside of Dr. Schneider's office, alleging abuse.
I'm kind of in shock right now.
Attorney John Phillips came by to assess what we found. We called him because he represented 131 victims in civil cases against Dr. Schneider.
There's dangerous stuff in here that's offensive, that it's gotten to where somebody just dropped it off at a news station because it was on the street.
Phillips says it's also potentially against the law. He wouldn't even look inside a record because of privacy laws, but noted in the wrong hands, it could have been a different story. We reached out to Dr. Schneider's attorneys, Bill Shepard and Betsy White. They sent us this note explaining a box of records inadvertently fell off a truck while transporting to a secure location. The accident occurred during a rainstorm. I thought all the documents were retrieved. Every effort was made to maintain the integrity of these files. However, Mother Nature had other plans. But for Spear, it's not good enough.
I mean, it's insane. I don't care if you want to blame Mother Nature or not. With information like that out there, you need to be on top of it and make sure you get everything.
We have been in contact with our attorney as well as Dr. Schneider's attorneys. We are keeping the records locked away here at the station so as not to compromise them any further. And we are coordinating with attorneys Shepard and White to pick them up.
This is unsettling, Lindsay, for any parent because of so many doctors' offices that have this kind of information. Have you been able to find out whether the mishandling of these documents breaks the law?
It's still unclear at this time. It really depends on who was in possession of the records. We know Schneider's building had been foreclosed on, so it could be possibly just maybe more negligence by a moving company, but without all the facts, we can't say for sure. I can tell you it is against Florida law to destroy records before 5 years and up to 7 years if medical malpractice could be involved, which in these cases, we know that has been a concern. I also can give parents at home this advice tonight. You do not have to put down your child's social security number in writing on paper like a lot of medical offices ask. If they need it, you are able to verbally give it to them, but you do not have to put it in writing. That is a tip a lot of parents aren't aware of. And becoming a new mom myself, you know, you get these documents, you just start kind of filling them out, rote memorization. But again, guys, you don't have to give them that information. If they need it, you can give it verbal. That way, there's no record of it.
Lindsay, thank you. We've been following the case of Dr. Schneider for nearly 3 years now. We first learned about it in April of 2015 when protesters gathered outside his office demanding an investigation of his practice. The next day, the state attorney general's office told it was investigating the dentist's Medicaid billings. About 2 weeks later, Dr. Schneider closed his practice. He then surrendered his license to practice dentistry. In November 2015, Schneider turned himself in on 11 counts of Medicaid fraud. He bonded out of jail that very night. In February of last year, a judge found him not competent for prosecution on the fraud charges. When his attorneys filed the motion months earlier, they said he suffered from, quote, severe mental deficits and lack of memory. A hearing on a competency review is scheduled for tomorrow. If you have a story the I-Team would investigate, we'd like to hear from you. Call the I-Team at 479 News or send an email to iteam@news4jax.com.